It's an honor for me to come here and have a conversation with you. I'm happy to take whatever questions you will throw at me. I'm also, frankly, not only here to give you my answers, I'm also here to try and understand your perspective. So if you have comments or if you would like me to know something about Orissa, I'm more than happy to listen and understand. I think Orissa take you back into history. This is the state that transformed Emperor Ashoka from a violent emperor to a non-violent institutional builder. And it is in your history, it is in your nature to have conversations, to have discussions. You're a decentralized society, you're a society, a thinking society. So I think a lot of the solutions to what is going on in our country, particularly with the type of attack that we are having on institutions, both unfortunately in Delhi and in Orissa, sort of massive centralization of power, and this idea that one man can provide the answers to billions of people, which I fundamentally don't believe. I to thrive, then the whole has to participate in that discussion. You simply cannot do it without that. And anybody who believes that one person can do miracles in this country or one person can be the fountain of all wisdom, but doesn't understand the culture or the ethos of the state or of this country. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. I don't want to make my opening remarks too long. I'll make some closing remarks, which will sort of give you a sense of my perspective. I look forward to as many questions as you would like to ask me. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. That was quite short-winded. I hope the audience has picked up enough threads to come with questions. Before I open it up to a question-answer session, a few ground rules. I hope all the mobile phones are switched off. Please do not indulge in parallel conversations when a person is asking a question and the speaker is answering. It's a request. I would also discourage you to switch on your phones for live cameragraphy. I see some people at the back are doing that. Please, it distracts. I think we have a very important subject, and if we can all focus on the discussions, it will be great. Before you ask a question, please introduce yourself and keep your questions as short as possible, brief and focused. If you have a comment to make, please say you have a comment to make. We would make time to come back for that comment, but first we would like to take all the questions. As many people a chance to ask questions. So keep it short, keep it brief, and keep it around the theme of today's discussion. Can I see hands going up? Okay, let me. Okay, yeah. Can you introduce yourself? Yeah, the person in the As you said. I think it's all good if we kind of stand up and take it. More interactive, more informal.
Good afternoon, Rahulji. My name is Chandrabhanu Patnaik. I work with a university, Century University here. You hinted in your brief to ask you, how would you respond to the current scenario where every democratic institution in health, in education, in minorities are being constantly challenged? What does one do at this point of time? What are your reactions to that?
Well, you currently have one institution called the RSS, which is the mothership of the BJP. They believe that it should be the only institution in this country. And the idea is to systematically penetrate people into all India's institutions. Completely different on how institutions support this country. That institutions should not be independent. We believe that there is a link between India's success, India's constitution, India's advancement, and its institutional independence. So, very simply, we have always and will respect institutions like the judiciary, like the election commission, like the education system, universities. So it is a mindset difference. We are much more interested in bringing in the voice of the people of this country into governance. And sometimes, frankly, it looks like chaotic. When the Congress party is operating, there's a lot of democracy. So we are ideologically completely against this assault that is taking place. And we simply will not allow it, and we will not do it. And frankly, we'll have to do a lot of repair work. Because what is being done over the last 5 years is actually devastating to this country. For the first time in our history, Supreme Court judges are coming out, taking the name of judge lawyer, indicating that the president of the BJP is involved in a murder case and saying we are not allowed to do our work. This has never happened in Indian history. Right? And you can see this imprint of the RSS. If you go to the North Block and South Block, or if you ask BJP ministers, they will all tell you that they have OSDs positioned under them directly from Nagpur. We simply don't believe that one state, one ideology, one set of people should run this country. We believe that 1.2 billion people should run this country, and the institutions are their instrument. And we will defend them. Yeah.
The point, it's all about collective leadership. Leadership plus people. It's not leadership and then people. Can I go up from the front desk? Yes.
Almost 25 years back, and had the privilege of working under your father. My question is, all the parties, yours, BJP, or whatever else is in power, they all neglect the middle class. If your party comes to power, what will you do for the middle class?
Well, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to say that all parties neglect the middle class. I think what the Congress party did between 1991 and 2014 massively helped create the middle class. And our policy of liberalization was, frankly, the set of policies that built the entire middle class. So I don't think it's fair to say that the middle class is ignored. But now you have to ask Mr. Modi that question. But I will tell you what I think the Congress party can and should do. It will help the middle class. Couple of things. The monopolization and capture of the education system and the healthcare system, and the idea that if a middle class person wants to send his child to university or school, he has to pay lakhs and lakhs and potentially crores of rupees to get him into get him a decent education, needs to be challenged. So you need to put a significantly bigger amount of money into healthcare and into education. And you need to start looking at building high quality education and healthcare infrastructure. I'm not saying that there is no role for the private sector. There is. But the flagships and the standard must be set by large numbers of public sector institutions like the IITs. If you think about it, the IITs were, as an institution, were invented in the 50s. And we keep harping on how good the IITs are, and they're very good. But they're 50-year-old institutions. And one needs to think about how to transform the IIT into a 21st century institution. The value that is currently locked in the IITs needs to be opened out. For example, it is this exact same situation in healthcare. And then if you want to talk about jobs in this country, you have a complete capture of the banking system. 12.5 lakh crores. 12.5 lakh crores of India's banking money is in the hands of 30 or 40 businessmen. If you're a small businessman or a middle-sized businessman, you deal with demonetization, you deal with GST, but you are not forgiven your loans. Mr. Vijay Mallya can run away with 9,000 crores. Mr. Nirav Modi can run away with 30,000 crores, which is the equivalent of one Narega for 1 year, and not a word is said. Mehul Choksi can run away with 30,000 crores. Anil Ambani can be given 30,000 crores just like that. Stolen, frankly, from the people of Orissa, because you have a jail over here. So, some of these monopolies need to be challenged. A young middle-class businessman who wants to set up an industry needs to have similar access to the banking system as Mr. Anil Ambani does. He needs to have similar access to the political system as Mr. Anil Ambani does. And if we centralize power, if everything is run outside the Prime Minister's office, from the Prime Minister's office or from the Chief Minister's office, but only 15 people can benefit, 15, 20 people who are close to him can benefit. So, the single biggest step, and this is where Orissa can teach us a huge amount of lessons, is decentralization of power, bringing power to the people. I think that is the broad direction in which I would push. Also, things like RTI, things like the Lokpal bill, which conveniently have been forgotten. RTI is a huge defender of the middle class. It is a weapon of the middle class. But today, the RTI is dead. So, giving the middle class protections, giving the middle class certain basic support, and making sure that the bureaucracy can't ride roughshod over the class. Those are the type of things we would think about.
Distinction between education as a private service or should be a public good first. I think that distinction has been made pretty well. Rahul, there is a private
service. A money-making enterprise. Because it's not private service today. Today it is purely a money-making enterprise.
Rahul, in the context of Bhubaneswar, there is another set of anxiety that today grapples with us, which is about what impact and automation, artificial intelligence could have on technology-driven jobs. Because here the aspiration is that Bhubaneswar should emerge as a tech hub, and we have a lot of IT companies, and the kind of jobs that get generated for a lot of middle-class people here are vanishing rapidly. What would be your approach to dealing with this challenge?
The central challenge, if you ask me. Well, I'll ask you a question to begin with. How come automation is not having an impact on job creation in China? How come China in a world which is automating, is producing 50,000 new jobs in every 24 hours. Why? Why is it that automation is a problem in Europe, automation is a problem in India, but automation doesn't seem to bother the Chinese? I was, when I had gone to Kailash, I met a couple of their ministers and they were saying, no, job creation is not a problem in China at all. We have plenty of jobs. In fact, we have too many jobs. So the real issue is if you are actually producing things and if you are in the technological stream, you do not have a problem. You do have a problem if you are producing the low value added jobs. If you are doing body shopping, then yes, you have a big problem. But if you are actually producing things, you don't have such a big problem. The problem is that India is frankly not producing things, and neither is the West. Production today has been completely dominated and captured by the Chinese. What we are facing, and this is something that India has to accept, and it is refusing to accept, what you are facing is an extremely competitive China that is beating everybody at the production game. And India frankly is the only country that can step up to this challenge. Modi ji talks about make in India. What's the actual result? 24 hours, 50,000 every day in China. In the same 24 hours, India produces 450 jobs. You know my data, this is the data of the government of India in the Lok Sabha. So I'm not a believer. The same idea was put forward that computers will wipe out jobs. No, I am not a believer that automation is going to wipe out jobs. You will still need the people to build the computers. You will still need the software engineers to do the automation. You will still need all those people. But are you in that game or are you not in that game? And that to me is the real question. And frankly, today India is not in the game. And we might not like to hear it, but that's the truth.
Well, the better educated is always capable of dealing with ecological changes better than the poorly educated. How do we ensure that everyone gets better education? Not just
I'll take one step back. Number one, you simply cannot forget about agriculture. Today, and this is going on in every single state, today governments are under the impression that agriculture is a weight. That agriculture is something that really we just have to deal with, unfortunately. In fact, agriculture is the backbone of any country. And huge number of jobs are going to come from agriculture if India rethinks agriculture. And I'm not talking simply about giving a farm loan waiver here and a farm loan waiver there. No. I'm talking about a transformation of the agricultural system. I'm talking of rethinking how the Indian farmer connects to the rest of the world. Number two, small and medium businesses are going to give you the jobs. Large businesses are not going to give you the jobs. What has been done over the last 5 years is a massacre of small and medium businesses. Demonetization, GST have literally broken the back of these businesses. Instead of seeing them as our biggest assets, instead of seeing them as our biggest strength, which they are, we have basically, Mr. Modi has destroyed them. So the central question in front of our country is how do you produce jobs? And India has a job crisis. There's no question about that. There is no state in India which today is not facing a job crisis. Now, huge part of that is education. You want an education in India, you have a system where it is mostly privatized. A lot of it is not job related. A lot of it has nothing to do with the type of skills that are required. So you need to re-engineer these things and realign these things. Today, if you listen to the conversation in India and you read the newspapers, the main thing people talk about is growth. If we have 9% growth, we are doing well. If we have 7% growth, we are not doing so well. If we have 6% growth, we have a problem. Nobody talks about jobs. You can grow at 9% and still have no jobs. And that is really the problem in India. So we have to change our mindset, and we have to take our mindset, much like we did when we carried out the Green Revolution, much like we did when we did liberalization, that we are now searching for a new paradigm. And that our old paradigm that worked from 1990 to 2010 or 11 is no longer working. And what the current government is trying to do is trying to rework that paradigm. And those tools are not going to work. It's finished. So we have to re-engineer and rethink what are the tools going to be. We are at a, if you want to call it, we are at a liberalization, pre-Green Revolution moment, where India can no longer tinker around. India now has to make 1 or 2 or 3 key strategic decisions and push them hard. And the central problem is, how do we deal with agriculture? How do we deal with the job crisis? And how do we align our healthcare and education system to provide the protection and the support that is required to fight this battle? We are entering a completely new world. Internationally, we are moving from a one power dominated world to a growing China. And frankly, we have to compete with China. And we have to accept that the single biggest challenge is China's ability to produce job after job after job. I mean, if you look behind this mic, it's probably got made in China written on it. If you look behind your phone, it's got made in China written on it. Everything is being made in China. And we have to, as a powerful country, as a confident country, as a country that has shown the world what it can do, we have to take up this challenge and say we're going to do it now. And that is where Orissa has a role to play.
Great. We have to rethink our development paradigm. That's the fantastic takeaway from here. Can I now turn to a lady? Yeah. We'll come back. We'll try and come back. Can we have a couple of microphones so that, we don't waste this thing?
Well, congratulations, first of all, for your last victory, Rahulji. My name is Rutupana Mohanty, and I am working for women development in Odisha last 2 decades. And my subject is conflict resolution and peace building. I have visited all over Odisha and visiting frequently, and tribal, rural, everywhere I have gone. I am only keen for Odisha's development. Of course, I'm Indian, but I just wanted to ask you, there is election. हमारे सामने election है, और BJD has a structural vote bank. BJP is also doing a very popular campaign like Jawab Maguchi Odisha, Jawab Mangre Odisha. So they are taking a lot of issues with them. And Congress leaders, big leaders are resigning. In this point of time, what is your strategy to popularize your ideas or Congress mandate in Odisha for collecting the vote? Because I just wanted to 1 minute only. Yeah, Congress has so many good policies. They are bringing like right to information, right to food, right to education, things, amendment. But why there is no visibility of success stories for your this bills and all? Ujala Yojana ek karke itna popular kar rahe hain. These are all programs. Why there is no visibility for this? Thank you very much.
What an answer.
Yeah. I think there will be some more questions around politics. We'll all take it all together.
I can quickly answer this.
Yeah.
See, the BJP model and the BJD model is the same. What is called the Gujarat model is basically a very simple deal. The biggest industrialists in the state fund the marketing of the chief minister. And the chief minister hands over the state government to a couple of key bureaucrats who run the state. And the voice of the people is not included in this conversation. That is very different than the way the Congress runs the state. The Congress, of course, has a chaotic conversation. I'm sorry to say it, but the Congress has a chaotic conversation. We allow our leaders to talk to each other, sometimes even have a disagreement. And sometimes, frankly, it doesn't look very nice. Believe me, Mr. Modi's entire cabinet is disagreeing with him. But none of them have the guts to open their mouth. It's a fact. In fact, they'll tell me that. Right? So, there's a difference in the way the BJP and the BJD run the state. We don't want a bureaucratic dictatorship. We want a people's democratic state. That's what we're looking for. And frankly, it'll be chaotic. And there'll be a lot of complaints because the tribals will want something, the Dalits will want something else, the middle class will want something else, industrialists will want something else. And what we do is we bring all of them together in a room and we create the discussion that allows the best way forward. What is going on in Orissa today? Suddenly Mr. Naveen Patnaik has woken up to the idea that farmers need his help. What has he been doing for the last 10, 15 years? Why is it suddenly now that in Chhattisgarh we are giving MSP and that we've done farm loan waiver? Now suddenly Mr. Naveen Patnaik has woken up to the plight of the farmers. What has been going on with the Adivasis of this state? What has been happening to the Dalit communities of this state? So these are the type of things that we will challenge. But most importantly, what the Congress brings is a conversation like this. I'd like to ask you a simple question. Has Mr. Naveen Patnaik had a conversation like this with you? Ever? Has Mr. Modi ever had a conversation like this with you? I am coming out here. Why? Because I respect your voice. And I'm putting myself out. I'm taking a risk because I can get questions. I can get difficult questions. But I learn. And I understand that actually you are the people with the knowledge. If I am under the impression that I know more than you about Orissa, then there's something wrong with me. So my model is, that, you obviously know more about Orissa. And why I'm having a conversation with you is because I want to get some knowledge, to get some understanding from you. Because I want to understand what is the spirit of Orissa saying today. What are the people of Orissa saying today? I don't really want to come and lecture you about what I think. I can tell you about what is going on in India. I can tell you how we are fighting the BJP. I can tell you how we are going to defeat them in 2019. But you're the people who are going to tell me, listen, this is how you need to think about Orissa. That's not how Mr. Naveen Patnaik thinks. That's not how Mr. Narendra Modi thinks. Mr. Narendra Modi is under the impression that he knows everything, about everything. And that is the big difference. So ours is a dynamic process. When we run a state, we listen to people. Maybe he's very upset. We'll go and say, tell us what's going on. Why are you upset? Okay, you're upset. Let's try and fix it. That feedback loop is not there in the BJD and the BJP. That's the big difference between us and them.